Greetings, this is Obi-Wan Kenobi, and I have drifted into the underworld. The Star Wars Underworld. I have a bad feeling about this.
Here we go. We must go to the lower levels. The underworld.
You've taken your first step into a larger world.
You're after something.
Ben.
Since I've started the underworld, I've met so many great friends.
Chris.
I grew up in the 1990s, and mall packaging is nostalgic for me.
Dominic.
What I love most about Star Wars is that it's fun and it's all-round good times.
So, this is where the fun begins.
May the Force be with us.
This thing really moves!
Whoa! I like this!
I can't believe you came all this way to see me.
Why am I not in the intro? I gotta come up with a snappy line.
Well, hello again, everybody, and welcome back to the Star Wars Underworld Podcast, your weekly source for all the latest breaking Star Wars news, reviews, and discussion. And this week, we're back to talk about Season 1, Episode 7 of Skeleton Crew. We're going to be in so much trouble, and you're going to be in so much trouble if you don't listen to this podcast, damn it. We'll let it slide if you skip it. I've also got a major piece of casting news or rumor, I suppose, for Ahsoka Season 2. And if we have some time, we'll get to some of your questions in our infamous Ask the SWU segment. All that and so much more coming up on the show. First, though, introductions are in order. In case you're new to the show or you've forgotten who we are, that can happen. My name is Dominic Jones, and with me, as always, he's the founder of the Star Wars Underworld, Ben Hart, the Star Wars guy.
How's it going, everybody? It's good to be back. Good to be back in my normal studios. I was in my pirate hideout last week. So it's good to be back and get things back to normal, or at least closer to normal. And yeah, we got a heck of an episode to discuss tonight. A heck of an episode. Have a lot of thoughts. And yeah, some other exciting news. Actually, it's getting past the holidays enough where news is starting to come in more regularly, or stuff's starting to happen. And it's like, oh yeah, other things are happening. We're less than 100 days away from celebration. Yeah, it's happening, and all kinds of stuff. It's great.
Yeah, it's I decided to relaunch, not to make this all about me, but I decided to relaunch my Substack, and I've decided what I'm going to do is do like a Star Wars newsletter. And I was like, okay, first week of January, starting that up. We're going to do that. And it was right after the holidays, so there was like no news, and I'm scrounging around going, God, this is going to be harder than I thought. This is so difficult. There's no news. And then this week, it's like, oh no, this is going to be the easiest thing in the world, because several very interesting stories came out. And we will definitely talk about at least one of them here once we finish talking about Skeleton Crew. But also with us, as always, from the Raeside, it's Hannah Raeside.
G'day there. Great to be back for another show. And I'm with you, Ben. I'm very excited to talk about this Skelly Crew episode. Very, very high up on my list as a bit of a teaser. And yeah, I'm excited for, the bits of news we've got coming in, which is juicy. And we are only about 3 months away from Star Wars Celebration, which is crazy. So that is going to sneak up fast. So I can't wait to, I think we're about to have a bit of a not dry period, but dark, like a black period between now and Celebration. But we'll get those bits of Celebration news coming out, and then of course, April will be insane. I think we'll get lots of stuff out of that.
Yes. Oh yeah, the celebration's gonna be wild, and like you guys have said, it's really close. I was buying plane tickets the other day, and that's how I know when things are turning around. As I brace myself for 13 plus hours on an airplane, which that'll be fun. That'll be so much fun.
Is that direct? Did you get direct from Canada?
No, you can, but I was lazy and didn't buy fast enough. So got some fun stopovers. Hannah, I'm sure you're like, week. Do this all the time.
I was like, 9 hours direct, baby. I can handle that. That's easy.
Easy peasy. Lemon squeezy. Chris isn't with us for right now. But if anybody's worried, Chris is doing okay, even with all those fires out there in LA. He'll join us again soon, but for now, gonna step aside for this one. But we will power forward as we always do. As always, got a couple of reminders for you. Make sure you punch the subscribe button, subscribe on YouTube, subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube Music, however you listen to or watch your shows, subscribe there. And if you have the opportunity, leave a review. You can also become a channel member if you want to support us more directly and financially. And you can super chat with us throughout the show to get jumped to the top of the line for Ask the SWU questions. You can also join our Discord. That's another way to submit questions for the Ask the SWU segment. And it's also a great place to keep the conversation going between shows. Follow us on all the social medias at the SWU and then .bsky. Blah blah, however the hell that website works. Follow us there. Then that's the spot, right? That's the spot going forward is where you want to be.
Right. We're still on Facebook. Like I said, it's not at the SWU. It's just literally the name of the page is the SWU. So just find that. And we're not posting much on the other X, Twitter, whatever you want to call it, app anymore. So just go follow us on Blue Sky. That's where everything's happening.
Yes, that is the spot. And of course, check out the other shows on the Star Wars Underworld Network, including Ion Cannon, which is on this channel, Tractor Beam, also on this channel, Tales from Beyond the Galaxy on Twitch, and the Raeside over on the Raeside channel. All right, let's get into things. Let's talk about Skeleton Crew Season 1, Episode 7. We're going to be in so much trouble. Written by Christopher Ford and John Watts, directed by Lee Isaac Chung. Ben, start us off. Initial impressions. What did you think?
Wow. This was an episode that I didn't expect, and I don't want to say, I feel like I've been selling this show short, or not having reasonable expectations, because this show has continued to surprise me throughout its whole run. But I didn't expect it to do what it did, which is like give us this really kind of nice kind of reunion, this episode where everything kind of comes together and all the characters are back together and after this big thing. But then it gets really dark. Like the first half of this episode is kind of your standard Skeleton Crew, what you come to expect, and the second half is a very kind of somber, melancholy, intense, dark episode that I was not expecting. But I appreciate it. I appreciate it for what it is. I think this show has continued to push boundaries on like what you'd expect. And I think anyone that, was foolish enough to say, well, this show is just for kids, just can be lighthearted, fun, blah, blah, blah. We've all been made fools by Skeleton Crew, because the show has continued to, be something that I don't think any of us really expected. At least I didn't. So, looking forward to getting into the details of what happened, but I really enjoyed this episode a lot.
Yeah, I think this episode has the most dramatic swings in tone, but all within the tone that the show is set for itself. But it goes from the sort of really charming and silliness of unclaimsies and that sort of thing to literally an adult threatening a bunch of children with a weapon and telling them to shut up. Like it runs the full gamut, but in a way that I think, and I think Ben, you think, agrees or works. I don't know. Brain no worky today. Hannah, what do you agree? I don't know what the question is anymore. What did you think of the episode?
Yeah, absolutely. I think this episode felt to me, in all the live action Star Wars shows, this was the most sound and confident and satisfying penultimate episode of a show. It had that tension. It had that danger that you could really palpably feel. And obviously we don't know the fate of any of these characters, so we don't know how they're going to end up. So the tension of everything, I just absolutely loved about this episode. And like specifically, like we'll talk about that scene probably in more detail, but specifically the scene where Jod is like confronting the kids and just yelling at them. That was such an uncomfortable scene, but I think it obviously was meant to be. And I feel like in that moment I could around the world of everyone watching it as it dropped, like audibly went, "Ooh." Like, because it's like, oh, like some people, like Jod has been a really interesting character. to connect with. And I think a lot of people, including myself, was kind of seeing that he was going to have this good turn, and he was, he would go from his piratey ways and turn out to be the savior of the day. But I cannot see that happening from now, like especially from that scene. I was like, how would they pitch? Oh no, you didn't mean it. Like, it was brutal, that scene. So really great moments in this episode. Overall, just so exciting. I really loved it.
Yeah, I agree. I thought this episode was really strong. Like it's definitely feels like the second last episode of a show. Like, it's bringing everything to a head. There was kind of a lull at the beginning where it felt like things, might be okay. And then it turned things around in a really interesting and really fun, but also dark and intimidating way. And I think Skeleton Crew, has really succeeded at doing a season-long arc. I know that not everyone agrees with me about some of the ways that Mandalorian has told its story, because it kind of flips and flops between what it wants to be. And I think Skeleton Crew has a really clear vision of what it wants to be. And it has, I think, succeeded at stringing this story along across multiple episodes. Could it have been a movie? Sure. But it's worked as, so far, 7 of 8 pieces. And now the question is, can they bring it all home next week? But really, really strong episode. Like I said, run the full gamut from some really silly moments. Like, there was a lot of just sort of good humor in it. I really liked Jod in the airlock telling the guy, no, don't you touch that. Don't you touch it. No. Like, that whole scene cracked me up. I thought it was really, really funny. Unclaimsies, when I first saw it, I was like, really? That's how this is going to be resolved? And then I thought about it, and I'm like, no, that's perfect. That is perfect. It's all made up. Why wouldn't it be Unclaimsies that worked? And then in that, you also get the parents being, rounded up by the secret police. Essentially, you have Jod threatening the kids, and then you get that whole really interesting sequence descending into the vaults. And we'll talk about all that. Let's start with Jod, because I think this episode, I mean, obviously there's another one still to go. Anything can happen, but this does seem to cement him in as the villain. Seems to be. Any thought that we had that he might be, the kid's savior, seems to be gone. Any sort of help he might provide in the finale will likely involve some sort of deal being made that's not super favorable to the main characters. And this episode really sort of sealed that, and we got some great performances by Jude Law in conveying that. But Hannah, let's go to you. What did you make of Jod, and how this episode sort of settled him into his sort of final form?
Yeah, I mean, I think, like I was starting to touch on, is I really thought they were going to play the classic bad guy turn good. I mean, they technically still could. He could go through a really big just realization in the finale and end up saving the day. But I think just the whole setup of this episode, showing how dark he is and how greed just rules him. I think there were so many great moments with Jod, but it just, every scene built up on oh, this is not a good guy. I mean, R.I.P. Brutus, the fact that he just I was like, okay, he's just gonna take him captive and be in charge now, and then just bang, killing him straight away. I was like, oh, okay, cool. And then the yelling at the kids scene, him in the earlier in the airlock. But then I think the scene that just was such a well done scene and so well acted by Jude Law was that near the end where he's in the vault and he's got the money and it starts kind of rifling down and pouring down, and he's kind of touching it like it's water, and he's so thirsty, and he's just kind of marveling in it, and he does that really maniacal laugh. It's just okay, that is where this guy is. That is definitely his priority. That is definitely his goal, and I can't see him turning before the end of the show. I think we're going to just end up with a really greedy, mean villain in Jude. Captain Jude, lol, Jod. Captain Silvo.
Correct.
Jude Nana Wood and Jode Law, I believe, is the correct pronunciations of his name.
Did they purposely make his name so similar to his first name? It's so annoying, so funny.
I think they knew we were all going to just call him Jude Law, so like let's just give him a name that's basically Jude Law. We'll call him Jode instead of Jude. Ben, what did you think of Jude / Jode / the Silvo / any of the other names that he gives?
Yeah, no, I mean, I've been stewing on this for a few weeks now because I had the thought after, episode 5, the when he first turns on them. I had the thought of just like, I don't know how he can come back from this, because I was still in the headspace. I think I was up until like even this episode. It's like, well, he's a bad guy, but they've everyone in the entire show, everyone that knew him, told the kids not to trust him. The writing has been on the wall, but you still like we're programmed as not just people that watch movies and TV shows and consume any type of media. We're Star Wars fans. The whole message of Star Wars is redemption, bad people or not so good people turning good in the end, and we're kind of conditioned to this. We expect it. And I think Jod is someone who I think falls into that trap. I mean, there's a lot of great comedies, like a lot of great camaraderie in those early episodes between him and the kids. Jude Law is amazing in this show. Jude Law does not I know we've talked a lot about the kids have absolutely carried the show. All the child actors have just been amazing, but Jude Law has been the glue. He's every scene, he steals it, and he plays the gamut. He does great intensity in this episode, but he also does some great comedic stuff. Like there's some great, him arguing with the kids about we're not going to search the buffet, like that kind of stuff. He's so good at.
I always want to search the buffet.
Oh yeah, who wouldn't? But like him, turning on the kids and holding a knife to Fern's throat. That's he didn't do anything. He still hasn't really done anything quote unquote bad. Like he killed Brutus. But Brutus was kind of an a-hole. So like he hasn't really done anything to the kids, but this is a at least a pattern of emotional abuse against these kids, because I feel that him holding a knife to Fern's throat was kind of like, how does he come back from this? And then you get to this episode, it's like, okay, this guy really isn't playing around. He really isn't a good guy at all.
Yeah, it's but like this is the thing. You say he hasn't done anything necessarily, or he hasn't killed one of the kids or really hurt one of them. He's just sort of threatened them. But that they're very intentional with that cliffhanger of him taking out the lightsaber and walking towards the parents. And the fact that we don't know what he's going to do, that we believe that he might cut them up, I think speaks to how well this story has been told and how well they have conveyed that he is in fact a scary dude who might actually go through with taking, with being one of the great Star Wars villains. I want to highlight this question from J Star Wars 360, who says, I like that Jod as a twist villain. It's not that you don't believe he's evil, it's that you don't want to believe that he's evil. And I think that's a testament to Jude Law, because I think Jude Law has played the part so well, where he's so much fun to see on screen that we cannot truly believe that he is actually evil until he makes us believe in these last couple of episodes. And even through last week's episode, with him like singing the song and all that stuff, you kind of forget that he's the bad guy, because Jude Law is so good. And they were really smart and intentional with the storytelling. They gave him quiet moments with the characters where he kind of he was like a reassuring, positive figure. That scene with Wim, I still, for as evil as he is and as bad as he's been and all the terrible things he's done in the last couple episodes, that scene with Wim still tells me he's got some kind of Jedi past. He's got some sort of Jedi past, but he's using that. He's using that to manipulate the kids to get what he wants. And so he's a really clever, crafty villain. And it took someone of the quality of Jude Law to, bring that to life and convey that to us, because a lesser actor can't do that. you think of the great sort of anti-hero performances. There's a lot of crappy movies with boring anti-heroes because they didn't cast them right. This is a good show with a good anti-hero because they nailed the casting by going out there and getting Jude Law to play this role. Yeah, the money scene at the end, like it's so good. It's so good. Just looking at it,
laughing,
laughing
so
and
good.
cackling. All the money. I didn't even catch the and Ben, maybe this is a connection corner. I didn't even catch that it was 1,139.
39,
yeah,
not 38,
vaults.
which means I guess that means that there's 1,138 other vaults.
Yeah, exactly.
Not counting that one. But they were up to something. John Watson, Chris, before we see what you're doing there.
Yeah, I wonder if this sort of end game for Jod for this show at least is almost he's going to wind up back where he was at the start, like he's going to wind up back in jail, so that when the Filoni movie inevitably brings him back, it'll be like the Ezra or Hera or Ahsoka or somebody's like, we need another Jedi character who is out there. Hey, this guy's shown up again and he's actually blah blah, old Jedi master something. So I wonder if that's
it's almost like Jod is like he really is like a harder edged version of Hondo. Like Hondo is like, pardon the pun, he's like a cartoon character. Not literally, like literally he was kind of a cartoon character, but like figuratively, like he's like kind of this mustache twirling villain when he shows up, and you never know what side he's gonna be on because he has been a villain, he has been a hero. But you still, Hondo has that heart of gold type of thing where you ultimately feel like, yeah, okay, he's done some bad things, but he has a he has a certain air about him that you can kind of trust him. Whereas Jod, I'm curious where it goes next episode, because I feel like you can't trust him. Everyone that's ever known him is saying don't trust him, and then the kids have only learned that tenfold in the worst way possible. I think, I don't know, the only way I see it coming out the other side as Jod is not just fully into the villain thing is I think maybe if something beyond Jod's control happens to the kids, that they are in danger, and maybe he steps in a quote unquote heroic moment. But I don't think I'm like someone like, I think a lot of people were debating like, would he kill Fern? Would he kill the kids? Like, I don't doubt him when he says these things. I think he is being a little showy about in that scene, the very tense scene. It feels like he's like trying to amp it up for the sake of be theatrical in a way that maybe he wouldn't do it, but in the sense, and I think the kids believe him when he says, yeah, you don't behave, I'll chop your parents up.
Yeah. So, okay, here's one like minor criticism of the episode, and I'm wondering if it's a criticism or if it's actually a hint at Jod's past. We've just sung the praises of Jude Law as an amazing actor and tremendous performance in this episode. Why does he hold the lightsaber so weirdly? Like, in the first time I watched it,
I kind of thought this. Yeah.
Yeah. He's holding it like, he's not holding it like somebody who knows how to use one. He's holding it like, you're like the uncle at Disneyland who went to Galaxy's Edge with his family and is just kind of like, oh yeah, Star Wars, I remember that. It's got you got the Vroom and the Harrison Ford and the laser sword. Like, he's holding it like that. Like, he doesn't seem like he has sort of skill. And I'm wondering if that's like an intentional thing to say, no, this guy isn't a Jedi or a Sith or a blah, blah. Or if it's just like, they didn't give Jude Law the correct, movement training and weapons training when it came to how to hold the lightsaber, probably because he's not going to have to actually do a lot of fighting in the finale. He just kind of has to hold it menacingly.
We do this and we know these creators think about literally everything. So my instinct is always like, it has to be intentional because blah blah blah, because they thought about it, because if we're thinking about it, they had to think about it, because they have to think about every single aspect of these shows. So I say it is intentional. I think I think we're meant to assume certain things about Jod. I think the line, your focus determines your reality, is definitely something that is aiming in the direction of this guy has passed with the Jedi. But I don't think he was necessarily trained as a Jedi. I think he's someone that I think it's probably kind of intentional. He's very clunky, and like even when he takes off SM-33's head, he's like very like showy, and he kind of like poses and like it's like someone who has never seen a Jedi, who's never met a Jedi, who has no formal training whatsoever, thinks a Jedi might act. And I think maybe that's Jod's point of view on this.
Interesting. It'll be interesting to see how it all plays out in the finale next week. Let's talk a little bit about the parents' storyline, I think, because that's kind of interesting, and that I think also factors into all the setup that's going on for the finale. We have the scene at the beginning where they send off the transmission. They gets picked up by the kids, or gets picked up by the pirates, and the kids see it. And while they're doing that, they get rounded up by the droids. They're brought in, and they're waiting for the supervisor to make some kind of decision, or they're trying to get a hold of the supervisor so that he can make a decision. Ben, what did you think of how this played out with the parents, from their desperate ploy at the beginning of the episode to their short-lived happy reunion turned epic cliffhanger in the final seconds?
Yeah, no, I liked where this went, because all season I've been wondering, like, okay, where are they going with this? How does the parents think? Because like in another version of the show, it could have just been like, we never cut back to the parents. We just cut back to them occasionally, like worrying and not being able to do anything. There was a point to what they were doing. There was, ultimately the parents were trying to do something proactive. And I don't think it obviously wasn't meant to be like, oh, it's hopeless. Like, no, they did something. They sent out this message. I like that it did two things. One, it gave the kids kind of this fighting spirit of just like, okay, we're just going to charge and just go in there and just start talking. We're just going to talk our way out of this, and giving them, the chance to get to the SM-33, which is a great moment. And it also gives Jod the way in of Republic emissary. Oh, you're the emissary. Oh, okay, yeah, sure, I'm the emissary. Let's do this. And kind of simultaneously, if they hadn't done that, what would have happened? The episode would have obviously gone differently. So I like that aspect, and I think just having that emotional connection with all the parents and actually getting to know them over the season, it makes that message very heart-wrenching. And then, the ultimate reunion between the characters, I think, is great. And I don't know what's going to happen next week. I mean, I think, I don't know what Jod's planning, just pulling out his lightsaber again, not to keep bringing this back to Jod, but I feel like Jod's not going to start striking down everyone. I don't think the episode's going to start like that next week. I think what's going to happen is he's going to be like, yes, I am a Jedi. I am the Republic emissary. He's like, because this is what Jedi do. They pull out their lightsabers and they ignite them and they twirl them around, and I am a Jedi. I think that's his whole thing. He's doing the Darth Maul thing of, I'm just turning on my lightsaber because I want to, and because I want to look cool.
Relatable.
True.
I love that. One element of this I really want to get your guys' takes on is the part that the droids of Atten is like, oh, you were the Republic emissary, come on down. And of course, Jod's like, okay, yeah, sure, I'm the Republic emissary, which is a good cover up for him. But it begs the question, and it's very like Camino coded, of like, who is the emissary for Atten? And obviously it's not. It's currently in the New Republic era, but they don't know it's the New Republic, so that's why they still just refer to it as the Republic. So, at some point, was there an established kind of emissary relationship to someone we know, like a senator that we know, or someone in some sort of power, of some sort of like the banking clan, the separatists, or well, they're not Republic, but some sort of leader of some group that we know in Star Wars is related or knows what's going on here. Just has piqued my interest. It's like, who's connected here?
Yeah, there's the mystery around Ad-Atten still remains kind of the plot with Jod and the kids. That's been what's been driving the story. But I feel like the real story, like the big picture story, is what's been going on with Ad-Atten, because that's where the big mystery is. What is this place? We know it's the Mint. We know that's where all the money is. But how much does the supervisor, assuming they're a good guy, how much does the people of Ad-Atten, how much do they actually know about the rest of the galaxy? Have they been completely cut off to the point where they don't know about all the things that have happened in, they haven't seen Star Wars, they haven't seen the movies. Obviously the kids don't know what's going on because they mentioned Alderaan, and Kim's like, oh, you missed the war, and they said, what war? But that might just be the kids not knowing things, because we do find out in this episode that the parents are hiding some things, that like part of Ad-Atten society is you graduate school and then you get to learn some of the mysteries of the planet. You get to know what they actually do there. That's something that they so is it just you find out that the place is a mint, or do you also find out like this is what's been going on with the galaxy, this is why we're cut off from them, this is why? Because have they had an emissary recently? Has someone from the New Republic been by? Did the Empire used to come by? I think it's clear that they haven't, because they're using the old Republic stuff. So nobody's been around for a while. And the question is, why? We know Tak Renaud went around and destroyed the coordinates on the other planet, and he made it so that it was difficult to find. The planet itself, by definition, by distinction, is difficult to find. So why is that? And I'll throw out my theory, and it won't surprise me if this is actually a popular theory, but I haven't heard it anywhere before because I've not been online very much this week. But the theory that I have is that the supervisor is Tak Renaud. That this old pirate found Ad-Atten, killed the supervisor, and took over, and has been, plundering and living in wealth and comfort for years on end. And part of the reason I think that is the casting, because the supervisor's voice that we hear in this episode is Stephen Fry. And while it would be very Mandoverse to cast, one of the great talents of our time in a voiceover role for, a nothing minute, I kind of want to believe that Stephen Fry is going to be a more active player in the story. And they didn't show, they made a big deal of not showing Renaud's face. They didn't say who played him in the credits. There is a little bit of mystery there. And I wonder if, the reveal will be that Stephen Fry is Tak Renaud, who found the planet and decided to stay there. Because remember, the Onyx Cinder is buried on Ad-Atten. Tak Renaud buried his own ship there. So if he ever had to make a quick getaway, he could, but he kept it hidden from everybody else. So that's the theory I'm running into the finale with, that those two characters are one and the same, because they keep talking about both of them without ever showing them. There's been so much talk about both of them. Surely they're both going to show up in the finale.
I look, not to break your heart here, Dom, but I have heard this theory before.
I don't think I came to that theory independently, but I don't for a second believe I'm the only one that came to it. I'm not. You're not breaking my heart here.
Here's the thing: you just made the best case for it, in my opinion, that it could be, because I've heard this and I was kind of like, whatever. Now I'm kind of convinced. Now I'm kind of like,
You're welcome.
This seems the most plausible, because you have all of this basically collection of Chekhov's guns out there that are kind of like Tak Renaud, the thing, the casting, the fact that we got a solid casting on who's voicing the supervisor, but they never told us about Tak Renaud. And I'm listening to the voices in my head, the pirate Tak Renaud, whatever else in my head, and I'm listening to Stephen Fry's performance as the supervisor, and I'm like, it could be him. It could be just him. It's just like, it's been hundreds of years, and obviously, like, how has he survived? Because we get a confirmation in this episode that Ad-Atten has been gone for hundreds of years doesn't mean that Tak Rened has been that he's been there all this time. But I think it begs the question of he's probably been there for quite a while. But we know there's plenty of species that are long lived. So a lot of people have thought that maybe Tak Rened is a weak way. So we don't know how long they live. So whatever.
Or this is the other part of it, Ben, is okay, the planet has been missing for hundreds of years. But there's a whole thing about Tak Rened finding it. That's the story, is that he found it. And so he may have found it relatively recently, or within the last 50 years or something. Maybe he found it as a young man, sort of Blackadder era Stephen Fry found it, and modern Stephen Fry is now running it. And I guess that's more like 30 years ago, whatever, doesn't matter. He could be, he's been there for a while. He just made sure that they didn't find out about what was going on elsewhere in the galaxy. The planet was always kind of cut off. They have all of these sort of systems in place about the emissary and all that stuff, because that was something that was going on. That was how the Old Republic and the High Republic and all that got a hold of this planet to go and get their money. And Tak Rened found it, got through the barrier with the ship and stole it, or however he got in there. He got through and said, I am now taking over. He killed the actual supervisor and said, this planet's mine now. I control the money. I control the wealth. I am the supervisor. Which, I don't know, maybe they needed to give the supervisor a more intimidating name, Snoke already had Supreme Leader. Palpatine's the Emperor. I don't know. He needed another kind of scary tyrant.
Going into the finale, I have so much faith in this show because I feel like it's been so tightly written and everything's kind of dovetailed and meshed together very well. It feels weird to, end the show with we don't know who the supervisor is. We don't know who Tak Rened is. We don't know what happened to him, whatever else. Even though people in the chat are things like, we have SN33's account that he was stabbed by his concubine. So that's a story. I don't know if we're meant to believe that, or was he programmed to say that? Because we know SM33 has been in the past
and
memory
saw
wipe and stuff.
Then again, I wonder if a lot of this stuff is seated in there, because in the first episode, Fern literally tells her droid, here's the version that you remember, which is, I've been at home studying in my room for the entire time. I haven't been out, nearly getting into speeder accidents with my BFF. I'm wondering if this is all. Are we grasping at straws? Are we just seeing things that aren't there and we're making connections that don't exist? Or were they really smart and really meticulous and left this sort of trail of breadcrumbs so that either people would figure it out and have fun figuring out the mystery, or would go back and go, oh, hey, there's the setup for that later on. I wonder.
I want to throw another grasp at straw theory into the stratosphere here. Because that is very compelling, that the supervisor is Tak Rened, and I think that's a really, it's going to be that, or my current theory is that there is no supervisor, and it's just I think the voice thing, I reckon that's of maybe perhaps the previous person in charge, but they're dead and they have been dead for ages. And the whole planet is just systematically run by these droids, essentially, which you don't think they're a threat. They're not battle droids. You don't think, oh my God, they're going to kill me. You just go, oh, they're just helping running the planet. We've got to just keep analyzing. We'll keep living and working and live by these droids. But there's actually no one in charge. And then that's what kind of descends into chaos for the planet.
This is that. I think that's that. I think that's fair, because there's something very Wizard of Oz about the voice of the supervisor only ever being heard and not being seen. And the way they talk about the supervisor is a little bit, it's a little bit the same way they talk about the wizard in The Wizard of Oz, and more recently, Wicked. So it's got that kind of vibe to it. So it wouldn't surprise me if there's an element, and all this stuff could, I'm just gonna say, it could all work together. There's ways that we could, I'm sure if we continue grasping at our straws here and continue weaving around this story, I'm sure we'll figure out a way to put it all together.
Yeah, I think like I said, I have faith. I think this show is written very smartly, and I really do believe like it's all going to come together in the end in a very, very, very poignant and a very, very smart way. But I have genuine questions. I have questions about all this, like this whole mythology this skeleton has created about the jewels of the Old Republic, the new Old Republic mints, all this stuff. Like, it's fascinating stuff. It's adding so much to the lore of Star Wars. It's all this stuff, this ancient stuff that's happened, that's been there all this time. We just never knew about it. And like, I'm curious, what was the actual purpose of At-Aten? Obviously, besides just making money for the Old Republic, what have they been doing all this time? Where's this money going other than making money and putting it in one of their 1,139 vaults? Where's this money been going? Have they gotten regular emissaries from the Republic? It doesn't seem like the people are that shocked to see the ship coming in. Like, it seems like a normal thing.
I don't know. They seemed surprised to me. It seemed like it was an unusual thing. Like the ground starts opening up and they're all like, oh, like they're like falling off the ground and rolling down the hill. I think if I'm sticking with my Tak Renaud is the supervisor theory, I think he's a pirate. He's hoarding it. We saw his vault in the other episode. What's he supposed to do with all that money? He's just hoarding it.
I mean, like, on one hand, and people are in the comments have already brought this up. Like, why stay on boring At-Aten? Why would you do that? Why would you stay on boring? Like, but look at what all the trouble that Jod and Brutus and all these guys have gone through. And in regards to having backstabbers, having people that are constantly, and you could see Tak Renaud going like, screw this. I don't want to deal with any other. I'm going to block myself off. I'm going to stay on this planet. I have all this wealth. I can live in luxury forever.
Ben, last week's episode, Jod does a whole thing with Brutus's crew of like, what would you do if you didn't have to do this? You'd go be a farmer, you'd go be a musician, you'd go do this. Like, what would you do if you found enough credits that you could just stop? And we don't know what Tak Renaud's life is like. We don't know what we don't know what the supervisor's life is like. And he may be living in a badass palace somewhere with just living the dream, having the best time now that he's retired and doesn't have to be a pirate anymore. That is a possibility. It is a possibility.
Yeah.
So I wonder if there's an element of that. I wonder if Tak Renaud again is, if he never appeared, maybe he never appears to people, like they are constantly wanting to see the supervisor. Maybe he just does voice things to them. Maybe it's sort of, again, maybe that's where the Wizard of Oz connection comes in, where it's, he's not literally just sort of a phony and a charlatan, but he's just, doesn't want to be seen because he doesn't want people to know he's the dangerous pirate. I think there's enough here that it could all make sense. Or somewhere John Watson and Chris Ford are watching this going, idiots, just wait till they see what happens next week. Which, for as much as I love this theory, that'd kind of be funny too if that was the case. And it'd be kind of fun if we've just spun up this whole thing and in reality, it's nothing like what's actually going to go down in the finale, which would be cool too. We haven't touched too much on what's going on with the main characters other than Jod with the kids. I think this is just an episode that kind of puts them into the place where they realize, through a lot of this, I think they haven't quite realized how much danger they're genuinely in. They're all kids. They're just sort of having fun with it. I think Neil has the great line. Half the time I felt like I was going to die. So that's how I knew it was a great adventure. And, they're all standing around like Wim is kind of having the, Sunday scaries, and, he doesn't want to go back. And he's talking about, I should have never pressed this button. And they're all like, no, it's good. It's good that we did this. Like, this was a good thing for us. And they're all happy they went on this adventure. They haven't really grappled with how close to death they've been. And then Jod shows back up and, puts them in their place. And there's the great scene where Fern is trying to talk and she just can't find the words. right? Where, all season she's always been the one to speak up and say something, and she just can't find the words. And I thought there was some good performances from all the kids, but in that scene in particular, all four of them were really, really, really strong.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, Ben, is it time? Is it time for our favorite segment?
I suppose.
All right.
I'm ready.
Well, you know what that means. It's time for your favorite segment. It's time for my favorite segment. It's time for everybody's favorite segment. It's time, once again, for Ben's Connection Corner. Connections in the corner with Ben. It's Ben's Connection Corner. Do.
How's it going, everybody?
Ben's Connection Corner is filmed in front of a live studio audience. All right, Ben, what have you got for us? What's in the corner this week?
Lucky for you, I'm prepared this week.
Yay.
And actually had a chance to actually watch the episode today, and it's not quite 66 connections, but it's a good bit. It's more than I expected. Let's get into it. So at literally the first shot you see in this episode, when it's panning down through the forest, there is a lizard-like creature crawling up the tree. And look, as someone who's read Heir to the Empire twice, couldn't help but think of Ysalamiri, the famous.
I was trying to figure out where you were going with this, Ben. And when you said ridden instead of red, I was like, Ben's ridden lizards. What's going on down there in Mississippi? How big are the lizards?
They come big down here.
That's where where Kenobi lives. You need to ride all those giant lizards down there. Yep.
Is Jurassic Park actually set in Mississippi? Is that why you're such a big fan of that show? You're like, this is my backyard. I go ride the dinosaurs every day.
Confirm nor deny. I mean, we do have a lot of alligators, which are dinosaurs, which are very dinosaurs. They're terrifying.
They're basically giant.
They are literally dinosaurs, like full stop.
This is what passes for fun in Mississippi. Y'all, we're gonna go ride the alligators.
Dude, do you not realize there's places you can go down here to watch someone wrestle an alligator? Like, that's a thing.
No, and I'm mad that we didn't go there when I was there 10 years ago.
Well, next time,
I'm coming back.
Mandalorian and Grogu's coming up. We're
going to go see it in Mississippi. And after that, we're going to go watch a guy wrestle an alligator. And then we're going to have a podcast where we debate which was more interesting.
A good day. Yeah, that's a good day right there. Love it.
Look what you have to look forward to, Hannah. This is going to be great.
Incredible.
I even got the first connection, man. This isn't even really connection. This is just me riffing.
Okay.
The things are called, I think one of KB's moms says they are called tree suckers, which I don't know. I mean, Ysalamiri have these like attachments on their bellies that like makes them like attaches themselves to the trees where they like, it would like kill them if you pull them off. So I don't know. As a distant cousin, Filoni seems to be against the whole Ysalamiri thing because I think George Lucas was against it. So we'll just have to wait and see. But I love that Neil's mom says, I have a bad, and doesn't finish that.
I like that.
He almost got it. Obviously, the show has been riffing a lot on classic 80s movies. E.T. has been talked about a lot as a big inspiration for these, and obviously the scene where they are being chased through the woods by robots with lanterns is straight out of E.T. But you know what also is straight out of E.T. is what they call the communications buoy, which they send up into the sky, which just so happens to be shaped exactly like E.T. ship from E.T.
Nice.
Oh, that's cool.
Which I literally was like watching the episode, go like, wait, they actually did that. I was flabbergasted that was things, and I didn't hear anybody else talk about that. So that's my connection. Okay, I didn't steal that from anybody.
Boom.
It's cool.
To pause you there for a second, Ben. Would you call what the communications thing? Would you call it the same thing that Ben called it, Dom?
Communications buoy.
Yeah. Would you say that? Is that how you say that?
Yeah, buoy.
What do you say? What do you say?
Yeah. Wait. Is it? I just want to make sure it's the right word. How do you spell that? How do you spell that?
It's Buoy.
Wow. Yeah. Like, we just call them boys.
No,
Like,
that's
get
Boy.
boy out of- yeah, that's crazy. Yeah.
I'm
Lotion?
familiar
See,
with
boy.
the different pronunciations, but the correct pronunciation is
Crazy.
buoy.
Buoy.
Because it's funny. Because it's funny.
I-
Buoy is a funny
Yeah.
word.
When in
It is a funny
doubt,
word.
default to the funny one.
Exactly. So we got we had a talk of Neil's expert playing of slapball. We got some slapball in this episode. They're playing slapball. Somebody brought a slapball with them, so it's flying around. I wonder if it's any relation to the other famous Star Wars game, Ball, from the Phantom Menace. Remember when they said, "Let's go and play ball. Keep racing, Annie."
I sometimes forget that George Lucas couldn't be bothered to come up with a game for them to play.
Let's play ball.
Call a ball.
Ball.
Oh, that's good. I like that.
Classic. Classic. So the barrier, this is cool. The barrier that we see from afar as they approach the planet, and I'd heard rumors about this. I'd heard that there was going to be a matte painting somewhere in the show. I didn't know where this came from. I don't know who confirmed it. I said, okay, we're looking for a matte painting. Well, the barrier that you see, that image of the planet for things, is a matte painting. I don't know who painted it.
Wow.
But I'll try to look up that information actually, because whoever painted that it looks amazing. It looks things. I think they added some digital touch-ups to it, but like,
sure,
it's really cool to see kind of some old school filmmaking techniques make a comeback, as has been with the show so far.
All right.
And then a couple more things. I'm not done. Okay. Don't try to rush me. Okay. You wanted connections, you're getting them.
No, we're giving you space, Ben.
The fighters that they use to chase the ship into the maelstrom, that they call it, are this pretty much the same fighters that Gorian Shard has in The Mandalorian. Pretty much the same type that Vane. Right? So I guess it's just a pirate fighter, whatever else. This was interesting. Caught this one earlier today. Neil's mom, when she's trying to appeal to Neil and tell him to come home, she says, quote, "Your little brother just lost a tooth. And then he got a shiny new datary," which obviously means that the Tooth Fairy exists in the Star Wars galaxy. The Tooth Fairy is canon officially as of this episode.
Terrific. Write the Wikipedia article now.
Yeah.
In
Wikipedia, you're on notice. You're on notice.
In the appearances section, it will say Skeleton Crew, season 1, episode 7. We're going to be in so much trouble. Brackets, indirect mention only. It's always my favorite thing on Wikipedia. It's all the indirect mentions.
So good.
Oh, and bringing in the rear here. Obviously we mentioned Stephen Fry is voicing the supervisor, and we have 1,139 volts, obviously, into connection to 1,138, or just 1138, as we've heard. And I like this line as Jod is trying to fake his way into the vault. He's like saying these things, oh, and whatever else. Obviously, he's impressed. One of the droids says, "We hoped you'd be pleased," which took me back to Attack of the Clones, where the Kaminoans are like, "Oh, we hope you'd be pleased with things," and the similar vibes of arriving at a planet that apparently doesn't exist. It's been hidden, and then you get there and they're like, "Oh, we're expecting you. We knew you were coming, and also we hope you're pleased with what we have here." So yeah, pretty cool.
Nice. With the maelstrom or whatever you call it, that made me think of the Rebels episode where they go to Lyrasan, where Seb's people are originally from, and it's like a whole thing to get through it. And so whoever designed that, I wonder if they took some, it's some inspiration from, things that do exist in the Star Wars galaxy and this nice other show.
Yeah, it definitely seems like the barrier is like a quote unquote, like for lack of a better term, a man-made version of like a nebula or something, the kind of the maelstrom around Kessel or whatever else, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's
cool. All right. Well, that will conclude another informative and exciting and excellent edition of Ben's Connection Corner. Connections in the corner with Ben. It's Ben's Connection Corner. Do.
How's it going, everybody?
Ben's Connection Corner is filmed in front of a live studio audience. All right. Anything else we want to bring up before we hit final thoughts and scores out of 10? No? I'm going to say no. The silence.
Yeah. I think we covered it. Yeah.
I'm speechless, like Fern. I'm speechless. Good lightsaber.
Go. All right. Well, then final thoughts and scores out of 10. We'll go around the table one last time and close things out on the discussion of Skeleton Crew. And Hannah, well, we started off with you. Final thoughts, score out of 10 for episode 7.
Yeah, I think, like I said at the start, like this is a penultimate episode. We've got the climax of this is the bad guy. How are we going to defeat him? He's in charge. Jod's got the situation under his command. And, I think we just had great tension. The parents, actually somebody mentioned like the parents being stunned and them like going down one at a time. Like that was such a brutal opener. Like I know they didn't die, obviously, but it's like, oh my God. And then, the whole in space scene with the pirates and trying to get down there and Brutus dying and all these ships are exploding. Just so like sensory interesting this episode was. Just so engaging with what was happening. To then a very tense finish, a very tense ending of the episode, perfectly setting up a finale episode. So, and saying that, just my excitement and engagement, I gotta give it like a 9 out of 10. This one,
9 out of 10 from Hannah. Ben, what about you? Final thoughts, score out of 10.
Yeah, overall, great episode. I think it's a great way to set up things. My only concern, my only like real complaint is like kind of what I similar thoughts that I had going into the Bad Batch finale, which is like there's just too much to do. There's so much to happen, and they're not gonna have enough time. Apparently, the rumor is the next episode is fairly long. It's longer than
will it be Ben? Will it be a whole 47 minutes? They're gonna give us 47 minutes of Star Wars. Oh, and that includes the credits in Czech Republic.
I actually heard 58 minutes, but we'll see.
Oh, well, okay. Well, that's a real But I will say we've talked about this other shows. Other shows go like an hour and 10 minutes.
Does that include the translation credits? Okay, because that's a big difference. That's like 10 minutes difference.
Yeah.
But we'll just see. Okay, I'm sure, just like with the Bad Batch, they'll bring it home. Nice finish. It'll be fine. They'll have plenty of time to wrap everything up properly. I have faith in the creators. I have faith in Skeleton Crew, and this episode just further cemented that this is like one of the best shows we've gotten so far. And I say that as someone who's really loved most of the shows we've gotten so far. I've not been a super harsh critic about most of them. And I think Skeleton Crew is up there. And I think this episode's a great little penultimate episode that leads us and keeps us on the edge of our seat until next week. But I will also give this a 9 out of 10.
Yeah, let's complete the whatchamacallit. 3. We'll go 3 for 3. I'd also give it a 9 out of 10. Because I thought, like you guys have said, it was really, really entertaining. It did a good job of being funny in places and being dark and serious in places, and neither side overpowering the other. Mike McCormick in the chat found the word I was looking for: trifecta. Complete the trifecta. I give it another 9 out of 10. But it was a really, really fun episode. Really, really, it did a really, really good job of setting up the finale. I hope my theory is right, but I'm ready for it to be wrong. And I'm excited for it, to the possibility that it could be wrong as well. And I'm just looking forward to, a whole 58 minutes of Star Wars next week with the finale. It's going to be exciting. So look forward to that. Before we totally move off Skeleton Crew, I thought we'll jump in and answer a quick super chat question. Joel Davis dropped this super chat saying, "Do you think the show is getting a season 2? I feel like this was made to be a one and done with maybe a bit of an open ending." What do we think? It's hard to say without seeing next week's episode, but instinct going into the finale. What are we feeling?
it's hard to predict now with what they want to give a season 2 to. Ahsoka didn't pull massive numbers. I think it was like, Kenobi, Boba, Andor were all above it, Mando, in terms of numbers. But that pretty quickly got its announcement for a season 2, and we're getting closer and closer to it. And I think that was more based on, honestly, just the general audience reception to it. People really enjoying the characters. Obviously, the Anakin episode was such a standout. So I take that example, being like, okay, it didn't get the numbers, but then it's still warranted from Lucasfilm a reboot for season 2. But then, obviously, we've had the most recent experience of the Acolyte, which I can't actually remember where in the stats Acolyte sits, but it did decently.
Yeah. None of these shows has been like a true flop. Like they've all done well enough. It's just the question is how badly does you could justify giving any of these shows a season 2. It's just a matter of how badly does someone want to fight for there to be a season 2. And when I say someone, I mean the heads of Lucasfilm.
Yeah, exactly. So it's hard to read that, but I think they'll have a good think about it, to be honest, because I think in general, the worst that people are saying about this show is that it's not for me. It's a kids show and it's not for me. Like that's the worst people are saying about it. Like overall, people are having an enjoyable time with it, and that is something I definitely think Lucasfilm at this point really wants to consider of what are people liking in general.
Yeah, I mean, like when like you crunch the numbers and like look at the statistics as we at least try to do something, you can't leave your emotions out of it. See the Acolyte. We had very a lot of stuff surrounding that, and like weighing the logistics of it versus like even to extent the moral things of just like, should this stuff be canceled? Should it not be? What allows the show to keep going? Why does the decision makers make the decisions that they do? And, apparently Skeleton Crew has not been the best in regards to like ratings. It has not been getting like stellar, things, but I think it has been getting a good critical reception. And I think it will have a good word of mouth. I think a lot of people are talking about this show low key. And I think I've seen people say, hey, I'm going to, I've heard good things. I'm going to binge it when it's over and stuff like that. And I think it will gain momentum. And I think that might play into it, not just, the week to week stuff, because that's the thing about streaming is that, it's not like, oh, it plays once on this one channel and then you can't see it again. It's there, hopefully forever. And you can just watch it and people will wait. They don't have to see it right when it drops. So it's not just what are the numbers right now. It's what are the numbers going to be a week after the release, a month after the release, a year after the release. A lot of shows have had second wins and had second lives on streaming and really gained momentum just because they existed on streaming. The Clone Wars did this. The Office did it. Like there's so many big shows that are beloved that really kind of took off after seemingly not making maybe as much as an impact. So I hope the Skeleton Crew could do that. And the creators have already said like they have a plan for season 2 if it happens. So I hope that's the case. I'm not opposed to Obi-Wan season 2 or Book of Boba Fett season 2 or Acolyte season 2. I want all those shows. I want every show to get all their things, and not everyone can happen, but I think Skeleton Crew really would. I think everyone would love to see that because it's just been so well received.
Yeah. I think this show has a better chance than the Acolyte did of getting a second season based on the numbers. I'm sorry, I should say, even though they have roughly the same numbers, I believe. This show is part of the larger Mandoverse storyline, even though there haven't been a ton of connections. Yes, Vane's been in it, but like beyond that, and unless Din and Grogu show up next week. But like they haven't done a ton of connections, but I think Jude Law and these kids have some role to play in the larger story that they're telling. And so the season will end with the, wrapping up this story, but the door will be left open for more stories. and those stories will either jump right to the movie and be part, they'll find some way to bring them into the Dave Filoni directed Heir to the Empire movie, or they will do a second season. But I think Favreau and Filoni will be more inclined to fight for this show because it's part of their larger thing, and they are dictating and determining a lot of the storytelling going forward. Of the 4 movies we know officially about, they are directing and writing 2 of them. They are also directing and writing another show with Ahsoka. Like the 2 of them are pushing this forward, and if they say we need another season of this, they will do another season of this, I think, which is the same reason I think Ahsoka got its second season. Disney is clearly scaling back on the amount of streaming they want to do, and so they chose not to renew Acolyte for that reason, and others, but they chose not to renew Acolyte for that reason. And I think it's an easier case for Filoni and Favreau to say to them, we need this for another season. And look, the reception has been positive. It hasn't ignited a culture war thing, which Disney is scared of. They don't want to deal with that again. So they'll say people like it. If we give it another season, 2 years time, when that season has come out, enough people will have watched it again or have found it on streaming that it will be even more popular than it was. So give us another season, and it will lead into our movie, our second movie in 2029 or whenever Filoni gets around to directing that thing. So I think I put it at 50-50, but I think it's got a better shot than Acolyte did. Much as I would have liked the second season of Acolyte and think a second season would have been great and would have been what everybody was looking for. It is what it is. I'm not going to relitigate that. Good question, Joel. Good question. But speaking of Ahsoka, some pretty big news out there about the second season of Ahsoka. Obviously one of the standout characters in season 1, standout new characters, was Baylan Skrull, played by the late Ray Stevenson. Ray, of course, passed away before the season aired, and his character was left in a very interesting spot. Obviously, some big setup for season 2. And the question was, how would they handle that going forward, seeing as Ray cannot return to play that part? Well, we have our answer now. The story is out there that Rory McCann will be replacing the late Ray Stevenson for Ahsoka season 2. This was first broken by the Insider, and has since been confirmed by the Hollywood Reporter. Rory McCann is a Scottish actor. You might know him from Game of Thrones, where he played the Hound, Sandor Clegane. And now he seems to be stepping into the role of Baylan Skrull for season 2 of Ahsoka. If I'm not mistaken, I believe Rory was friends with Ray. I think they were buds.
I heard that, yeah.
So I think it's kind of nice that he's going to continue on his friend's legacy. You look at the 2 of them. They don't necessarily, they aren't twins by any stretch of the imagination. But I will say, when I first heard this, my feeling was Rory can bring the same presence to the screen that Ray did. It'll be a different performance. It'll be, I don't think Rory's going to go out there and do an impression of Ray.
Yeah.
But he can bring the same presence that Ray Stevenson brought to Baylan in season 1. So I'm on board with this casting. I think it's good casting. I think it's smart casting. But obviously it's as excited as I am to have Rory McCann be in Star Wars, because he is a very good actor and I loved him on Game of Thrones. You wish he was under different circumstances. You wish he wasn't taken over for Ray Stevenson. But given that he is, very excited for it. Very excited to see what he does. What do you guys think of this news?
Yeah, I think it's exciting to hear that they've made a decision on it. And it's exciting to hear they're going, yep, we'll do the recast, because I was worried for a little bit there that we'll go into this kind of irky, deep fake reconstruction situation, which I probably wouldn't have been a big fan of. But I think, a lot of my critical view, obviously, and I think everyone's view has to come down to how is he in the episodes? How is he in the show? So I think, yeah, the likeness is not fully there, but also they could, if they do the hair right, they do the beard right, like, you can go, this is Balin Skull. Yeah, no, I mean, I'm just excited that they actually did a recast and we know about it.
As a fellow bald person, I can say Rory is bald. And
is he? Okay, there you go.
But you put a wig on him. The hair and makeup.
It'll be so easy to just glue it on.
Yeah, hair and makeup on Star Wars. They're top tier, best of the best, and they will do everything they can so that the jump from one actor to the other is not as jarring as it might be if just these two men walked up to you on the street.
Yeah, I mean, and you look at the amazing talents that just like, obviously, yes, in small amounts, in my opinion, CGI makeup can be really useful and can be really interesting, but just physical makeup is astounding what they can do. Like, see, for example, what they did with the Penguin and Colin Farrell's performance as that character, and how, like, I remember being flabbergasted and being like, that's him. How is that possible? Like, it's just incredible what they can do. And I think ultimately it's less about looks. I think they can look pretty much anybody look like anybody. I think you give them enough time. It's more about just like being able to bring that presence to the screen. Can't really, speak to his performance, but I mean, he does already have the look. He's kind of halfway there in regards to, he does resemble Ray Stevenson. And obviously, I think he has, a lot of people, I've seen a lot of comments, people very excited that he's done. There's a lot of different names have been bandied about over the past years of people. I think a lot of them would have done great, but I think he might be the best choice. And I'm with Hannah here. I'm just glad they're recasting, because I was terrified of a CGI double, or even worse, because it ends literally on a cliffhanger with him looking out. Maybe they'll just write him out. Maybe they would just make Ahsoka season 2, and I could see that happening and being like, well, we don't want to touch this. Ray Stevenson did this things. We don't want to things. I mean, the precedent has been set. You had the awful, horrible, tragic passing of Chadwick Boseman. And a lot of people were like, should recast, but they didn't. They went with the route of, we're going to kill him off in the movie and give the character and the actor a send-off. And I could see how that logic checks out, especially when it's not just, oh, this is a character thing. This is like, this is our friend. This is the person we work with. And the precedent are just like, yeah, just replace him. Just bring in another person and we'll just do this over again. Like, that's a bit cold. But I also think, like, Ray Stevenson would want this to continue, I think. I think if he had to say, I think he would want the character to continue. I think he would want, especially someone who was friends with him, to come in and take over and let Filoni do the story that he was originally going to do.
Well, and that's sort of the nice part of it, is that, it's his, if these guys were friends, like, then it's his friend carrying it forward. Like, it's obviously he's a professional actor, he's going to be paid and yada yada yada, but it is like doing a little tribute to his friend and continuing the story forward. Because I was wondering that as well, Ben, if they were going to do sort of like, oh, he went looking for Mortis, and Ahsoka and Sabine go looking for Mortis, and oh my god, they found his lightsaber on the way, he must have died here, sort of that kind of thing. Or look, they were in an impossible position for The Rise of Skywalker with Carrie Fisher, and under the circumstances, I think they did the best that they absolutely could. And I don't have an issue with what they did with Leia in that movie, but you can't help but wonder what an episode 9 would have looked like if they could have had Leia be the entire story, for or be an active player in that entire story. You can't help but wonder how that would have affected and changed things for better or for worse. But you can't help but wonder. So I'm glad they went with. I'm glad they're going with this direction, and that we'll get to see this story play out. Not exactly how it was intended, but a lot closer to how it was intended.
Indeed.
All right. Brilliant stuff. Okay, I think we'll leave it there for this week. We'll get to the questions are starting to fall a little bit out of date with being about past episodes of Skeleton Crew. So we'll come back to those once the season is done and check in with everybody. Then just got a new. We'll shout out Joseph Cooper in the chat, becoming a channel member, saying thank you for 5 months, throwing in the Star Wars Underworld logo, which looks great in the chat if you're watching along. It doesn't look so great on screen where it says _SWU logo :
iconic. So good.
So good stuff. But thank you to everybody for listening, and we'll make sure you tune in again. I can't find the friggin' music. Why isn't the music ready? I wasn't ready. There we go. Let's begin to wrap things up for this week. Thank you everybody for listening. We'll be back next week to talk about the finale, the final episode of season 1. Yes, I'm gonna call it season 1. I'm gonna be optimistic and say there will be a season 2. And so we'll call it season 1 of Skeleton Crew. We'll be back next week to talk about it. Same time, same place. We hope you join us then. Ben, thank you as always for hosting tonight.
Oh, it was a pleasure as always. It's always a pleasure to just get into a really good show that everyone seems to be enjoying. We're all still kind of just chill about it, okay? No one's freaking out. No one's going off on the internet and making wild ramblings and finding stuff to complain about like the last show. We're all just enjoying it, and very much finales are always fun. It can be a bit stressful sometimes, as I said. Like, are they gonna actually stick the landing? They will. They've done good so far. I have ultimate faith that Christopher Ford and all those guys, they're gonna nail it. So I cannot wait for next week. But in the meantime, yeah, it's been great, and talk to you next week.
All right, make sure you follow Ben at Ben Hart with no E on the various social medias, specifically the one where the skies
just
are
blue sky. Okay, just follow me, blue sky. I need to rebuild my following over here. I lost 3,000 followers on the stupid other app. Okay, I need my people back.
Damn. All right. Ben needs his people. He needs a following.
Yeah.
He needs people to follow around and just tell him he's smart. And
I need my followers.
So go follow him.
I'm totally not building a cult.
Cult of Ben. Cult of Ben. Wouldn't that be fun? At Ben Hart with no E is the place to follow and join the cult. Hannah, thank you as always. What's going on with Raeside? Plug away.
Yeah, that's a great question. What the hell is going on over there? No, another great show. Thought-provoking discussion as always. And what's happening on the Raeside? A lot of things. Just I'm pumping up the video content a little bit at the moment. Did a bit of a recap of 2025 content for Star Wars. I did a Lego release drop overview, which came out Jan 1st. And a bunch of other things happen on the channel. It's always a good time. And obviously there will be a big time next week for the Skelly Crew finale. It's going to be very exciting. But yeah, another great week. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Make sure everybody's following at the Raeside on social media and search for Raeside on YouTube. That's RAE side. I mentioned off the top, I've relaunched my Substack, which is infamously known as Hoth Off the Press. You can find it at dominicgjones.substack.com. I'm going to be posting twice a week from now on. You'll get a Star Wars weekly newsletter, which will have all the latest breaking Star Wars news broken down with a little bit of analysis, as well as some kind of feature or editorial. I'm going to be rewatching all of Rebels and all of the Clone Wars and going into deep dives on both of those shows. And we'll do some other Star Wars ratings and a little bit of non-Star Wars in there as well, just for fun. So dominicgjones.substack.com. Subscribe over there. All right, that does it. Again, want to remind you to subscribe on YouTube, subscribe on Apple Podcasts, subscribe on Spotify, subscribe on YouTube Music, however you listen to the show. And if you have the opportunity to do so, make sure you leave a review. Become a channel member in between shows, so you can get that cool logo next to your name, but doesn't show up on the chat when we pull it up on screen. So that's always fun. And join the Discord. All sorts of fun stuff goes on in the Star Wars Underworld Network Discord. And speaking of the Star Wars Underworld Network, check out the different shows on the Star Wars Underworld Network, including Ion Cannon and Tractor Beam, which are featured on this very channel, Tales from Beyond the Galaxy, which is on Twitch, and the aforementioned Raeside on the Raeside channel. All right, that's it. We'll be back in 7 days' time to talk about the finale. We hope to see you all then. For Ben and Hannah and Chris, who is not here this week, my name is Dominic, and may the Force be with you. It's a wrap.